Hey, what's good, YouTube? Welcome to my fourth video. Next topic, I do want to talk about dating coaches. If you're struggling with women, here's some dating coaches that I highly recommend that have helped me, in dating. Um, and I could go down the list. But again, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Lucario, Steve the Dean Williams, Miles Cunningham, Kay Zagan, and Mr. 1950. I really enjoy listening to their content. They're more, application. If you're gonna go in and follow their advice, it's like, you know, it's it's almost like boxing, right? Like you're gonna actually do some sparring. So, versus like karate, you probably won't, do any contact if you get my drift. Another dating coach that I also started watching was Alpha Male Strategies. I believe I started watching him and Mr. Lucario around the same time, but I was watching more of Alpha Male Strategies at the time. He's red pill, or he was a red pill dating coach. I don't know about now, but yeah, his approach was more at the time. He was telling guys to, lie to women and just any means necessary to get the women and build your looks, your money, your status. So again, I would say he still has some good advice. I think his mindset's much different than when he first started, but now he has a different approach. But still, if you aside from the lying to women part, he still has some good advice there. Fresh and Fit, you know, I started watching them as well. I mean, they're entertaining, if you want to see just guys arguing with women and women arguing with men. But I mean, I did like their approach, about exercising and going out there and talking to women. But they seem a little bit too, you know, I don't know. It's always like they're always trying to put women down, and you know one of their main coaches. I really don't like his philosophies. And then you have oh, I forgot. I think it was Andrew Tate. I don't know if he's necessarily a dating coach. I mean, he has good advice. Work out, get money, but his dating is all basically looks, money, and status. So, yeah, let me break it down to you. So I've never really been, I just, I was always shy growing up. So I didn't really talk to many, ladies in high school. And, I, built up some courage during college. And, so I never really had that dating experience. And then I started, talking to women more. And, here I am in my mid 20s, right? And, I'm talking to these women and I'm like, then I finally, gain the courage to tell them I like them. And then, they're not feeling the same type of way. And, my ego was, I want to say my ego was shredded a few times. And, it was happening, multiple times. And, here I was like, dang, what am I doing wrong? I thought these women, were into me, they're giving me these mixed signals and, you know, but, yeah, so I was just trying to figure out what the heck's going on. I'm a decent looking guy, I'm in decent shape. So, at that time, I just started working out like crazy, and I was still falling into the friend zone. And yeah, so this is when I started watching like dating coaches, like Alpha Male Strategies, and one of the things I do like is he does tell you, exercise, talk to multiple women. But his thing was it's more like, um trying to have a rotation and um get your money up and get your status up. And as far as my job and whatnot, I was doing pretty good, for myself. And looks, I sort of had that down. Not I could have done a whole lot better, but status, I didn't really have a status, but you know and so it wasn't really, working for me. And then I started listening to Mr. Lucario. So he has a different approach. His way of thinking, it's not about the women, it's about yourself, right? So you want to build yourself like game. He teaches you need to have game, right? Game is everything, right? It's about getting things you want, kind of on your own terms. And I've seen debates between Mr. Lucario and AMS, and AMS is like, what the hell's this game, thing? You're lying to guys, and um, you can't be LeBron James overnight. And at the time I agreed with that, and um, but yeah, after a while, I started learning about game. It's everything, right? Brushing your teeth, dressing nice, learning how to talk to women, and not just learning how to talk to women, but learning how to keep women, right? Keep them interested and whatnot. So yeah, just and I would listen to Mr. Lucario, back then, and I was like, what, what's this game like? If I work out right, um, I'm gonna get all the ladies or something like that. And you know, I was working out really hard, and I didn't really, you know, necessarily. I mean, more women would like talk to me, but I wasn't, getting much further in my dates and stuff like that. So I was getting more dates, getting more, you know, more women approaching me, more women interested in me, but I wasn't getting a relationship. Um, but yeah, and then, I started listening. So then what I started doing, like Mr. Lucario teaches you, hey, you got to go out there and approach women. And, so last year I went out quite a bit and I was approaching a lot of women, and I was getting rejected left and right. I mean, a lot of women were nice about it, they were like, oh, thank you, but not interested. And you had a few rude women, or just women that didn't want you to approach their friend. And so, I was getting worn out, man. I was like, dang, this is not working. But funny thing is what I learned, actually my mouthpiece, I think, got better, because I was, what it does is kind of teaches you to, think on the fly. So, you don't realize it, but when you approach somebody, you have to think right on the spot, and then you have to figure out what are you going to say next. So it's like, so in the long run, it actually helped. And, um, yeah, I got into a serious relationship, and you know, and it didn't last long, but again, like, Mr. Lucario teaches you, it's like, all right, you got the relationship, but can you keep the relationship? So it's like, so game isn't, you know, yeah, you get the prize, right? But you have to work at the relationship. It's a 24/7 job. So, you know, and that's when I learned. I was like, all right, this is work. And but it was a good experience. And so now I'm like, wow, I learned a lot. I learned that, hey, and mind you, I was not working out at all last year. You know, I was dressing a little bit better, combing my hair, whatever. But yeah, so it's kind of, game is everything, right? It's it's all around us, right? So people think game is just about getting women. You can use game, to help you in life, in general, like just working, or fixing things. Game is experience, right? um so yeah, if you want to check out Mr. Lucario, highly recommend. Although, um Mr. Lucario and another really good coach is Steve the Dean Williams. So I think he has a different approach, but if you listen to Mr. Lucario, Steve the Dean, Miles Cunningham, Kay Zagan, Mr. 1950, they're all basically, you know, they'll have podcasts and stuff. So, and they all have different approaches, but they're still, they all kind of go back to the focal point of game. So, and they're not red pill, so they pretty much encourage you, like, red pill is kind of like, it teaches men to hate women and, go the other way. And but what I like about the approach from Steve the Dean Williams and Miles Cunningham is like, women are amazing. You gotta, can't be afraid of women. They're biologically much different, but it's like, you know, and we're different slightly. But again, you can't run away. And game, like, I hear about passport bros and stuff like that. It's like and I always listen to Steve the Dean Williams. It's like, well, if you can't get women here in the United States, what makes you think you're gonna get women in I don't know, the Bahamas or like Asia? So it's like, here you're gonna spend all this money for flights. I mean, yeah, you'll probably get, and just because you're getting laid does not mean you're good with women. So here you're spending all this money, I mean, to travel overseas to get women, which, I mean, I'm not throwing any shade on those guys, but ultimately, you're still going to run into the same issues if you get a woman over there, right? Because chances are, she's probably going to be interested in you because you have money. um but if you're able to get women here and you go overseas and you get women there, then you should be okay, right? And another thing, and mouthpiece, right? you know Basically having the ability to talk, can go a long way. That can make you more attractive. I mean, maybe initially, like, you may be physically attractive, so you could probably, attract a woman instantly. But if you don't have a mouthpiece, you probably can't retain that woman. And, um, so yeah, another thing is, Mr. Lucario, Steve the Dean Williams. I mean, if you call up on their show, they're gonna, if you ask like a dumb question, they will chew you out. So they are pretty harsh. So it's not for the lighthearted, but I think what they're also trying to teach you to be men too. So Miles Cunningham, right? He doesn't. I don't think he really teaches you about dating, but he teaches you about having a identity, a masculine identity. And I think Steve the Dean Williams, he kind of goes from ground one, like, like psychologically, like you start fresh. It's like, you got to conquer your fears, talk to the women. I mean, even if you get rejected, a lot of people think getting rejected is bad. It's a good thing. I think it's I've been getting rejected quite a bit, and I think it stings, at first, but over the course of a year, you kind of, it humbles you, and then you're like, well, I got to work on this. Now I got to work on that. So, um, and then I think one of the good things is like if you watch, Mr. Lucario and them, they kind of teach you like, okay, if a girl's not interested, move on. Don't even worry about it, you know. And that was my problem. I'm like, why isn't this girl, interested? And I would keep trying to, you know, keep thinking like, all right, if I keep talking to her, she's gonna end up liking me. And I mean, sometimes that does happen, right? A girl will end up liking you. But I think, the thing is you see like a lot of guys that get rejected. They can't handle rejection and but I think as us guys, right, you got to be able to learn to deal with rejection. You got to realize not every woman is going to like you. You may not be their type. And if they do like you, you know, later down the road, then don't even worry about it. I mean, they changed their mind. Now you're attractive in their eyes, And I'm learning that attraction, you think it's all physical, right? And I would say, a lot of it is, but it's there's other factors, right? Communication, if someone's funny. So all these other things kind of play a role, right? Um, and yeah, so I recommend these guys again, if you're brave enough, call in, ask your question. I mean, they take donations, which I like. If you spend $5 and ask a question, and they're probably just gonna tell you, hey, sign up for the membership. And I see a lot of guys calling in. It's like that membership's expensive, and I agree it is expensive, but I think it's the reason is it's expensive because it's like if you sign up, you got to like take it seriously. It's like and if you apply what they're teaching you, it'll go a long way. And that's my plan. Like they say, well, um you can't afford the membership, then start working, find a higher paying job, or work more hours so you can get the membership. So they kind of like um they don't really teach you, like it's not going to be an easy um you know one a magic pill, so it's going to take work on your end. So um And another thing I like, and nothing wrong with choosing signals. I mean, if girls give you choosing signals and you approach those girls and you're always successful, then hey, by all means, go with that method. But I do like Mr. Lucario's teachings about cold approaching women. Um, and I think I like that because there might be a certain girl that I guess not necessarily choosing signals always means that a girl is into you. I mean, you could approach a girl and you think she's into you, and then, she might not be. But cold approaching, I think, is good. You might meet somebody that, you think you don't have a shot with, and who knows, they might like your beard or something. Like, you're like, what? This hot girl's, into me because of I got a beard. So I think it's always, yeah, I like the cold approach method. Of course, choosing signals. You don't want to be seen as creepy and all this other stuff. But, you got to remember, you also want to build your character. And you also, you know, like, you also want to look sharp. You know, you want to be on point too. It's like if you know, you're playing in the NFL, um, you know, you're working out, you're conditioning, right? Like already, right? You're lifting weights, you're, doing sprints, and your plays. So when you go into the game, right? Like the actual game, like you're ready, right? So I mean, that's kind of how Lucario's approaches is like you want to be ready for the game, right? So like when you're approaching a woman, yeah, of course they're gonna think you're creepy if you're not on point, if you're um stuttering or if you're not confident. So it's kind of like that, right? Like, you know, like in the NBA, you see Steph Curry, taking. I don't know if you've ever noticed him. He takes shots like not normal shots, but he's trying to test his boundaries before the actual game. If you ever see Kobe, putting in that extra work, so it's also like on your end. Um, yeah, and again, so a lot of guys, they don't want to put in that work, but you got to remember it's work. You got to put work into yourself, and then once you put the work into yourself, you're gonna see the results. But yeah, this is my review of dating coaches. Again, I think alpha male strategies, has a still some good knowledge, and he's changed his approach. I think he's getting more into the business side of things. Fresh and fit, I mean, as far as entertainment, if you want to see people argue on a live or like but I don't know. I think that they're always just trying to put women down. And I mean, I think the guys live in Miami, so they're always trying to get supermodels. I think a lot of guys think like, oh yeah, I need to have a supermodel. If you don't have a supermodel, you don't have game. And that's kind of like Andrew Tate's method. So it's like, you know, oh, if you're not dating a supermodel, then you don't have game. But, game is all about, what you want. You don't need to date the hottest girl on the planet, It's what you're attracted to, you know. And the ability to maintain, that relationship with that woman. You don't need, multiple women. Having multiple women doesn't mean you have game. Um, Game is basically what you want, are you, happy with, what you have, Um, so yeah, but again, if you want to check out all these coaches, and I think there's also Coach Corey Wayne. He has a lot of knowledge too. You know, he's more I don't know if he has I think he has some training courses. I know he does a lot of responses. But yeah, you can also find him. He has a lot of knowledge. And there's some other guys out there. But yeah, I just want to close this out. You know, don't be mad at women for not being attracted to you, Um I think, you know, if they're not into you, hey, just move on. You know, that's life. But, you also want to be in your peak physical condition, be your best, because that same woman that, maybe she would just wasn't attracted to you in that moment, right? Maybe if you were at your peak condition, or maybe if your mouthpiece was on point, you could be with that particular woman. But again, yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and there's a lot of coaches out there, so find what fits you best. Peace, y'all.